Good evening to you. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis. We want to get you updated on the severe storms that are approaching Indiana. It is just after 8 o'clock and we are watching this line of storms that is producing several severe thunderstorm warnings as well as several tornado warnings as it moves to the east. It's going to march to the east. We also have some watches that are in place, but we think that likely we'll see more of these issued as the evening gets a little bit closer to these crossing the state line. There's a severe thunderstorm watch to our north. It's going to be in play until 2 a.m. These are issued by the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center. A tornado watch has been issued just over the Illinois line until 10 p.m. Now, we are running out of runway here before this line of storms crosses the Indiana state line. Once it does so, I think we're going to start to see some severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings being issued for parts of Indiana. In anticipation of that, we're probably going to see the tornado watch expanded across much of central Indiana. We'll have to see how much the National Weather Service out at Indianapolis puts that across central Indiana. Will they do the whole state really from one side from west to east, or will they just move it through the metro? We'll have to see how the timing of that line moves in. What we're tracking right now are several pretty strong cells within that line. What Sean and I, meteorologist Sean Ash and I, are going to be watching over the next couple of hours is as this line gets a little bit closer, is it linear or does it have little squiggles in it? And the reason that's going to become important is because where it's linear, that's where the winds are likely very strong. The system pushing winds out ahead of that line of storms and probably producing some 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Where we start to get the little squiggles, that's why we have these tornado warnings that are in place currently. And as I put the warnings on, you're going to see where we do have some pretty strong cells here. That little bend is why we have the tornado warning. In fact, 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings that are in place right now. All of these are radar indicated. There's also a severe thunderstorm warning here that could have winds as high as 70 miles per hour. That's a little farther to the south on the more linear side of that cell, that line of thunderstorms. And then continuing to the south, there are even more severe thunderstorm warnings. These are what we're going to be watching move into likely the southern part of the state. There are also some scattered showers and thunderstorms developing out ahead of the main line. These will probably at least bring us some rain through the next couple of hours or so, but it's that main line that has several severe thunderstorm warnings and a lot of tornado warnings. We do think that we'll end up with several severe thunderstorm warnings at the very least as this moves through. And a pretty safe bet that a couple of tornado warnings are going to fire off from this line over the next maybe 4 hours or so. It's probably going to take it through about midnight before that entire line moves through. Also watching our storm relative velocities. They're a little too far away from the Indiana radar to track that. When we switch over to the other radar, you will see there's a little bit of spin right there being detected. That's why that tornado warning has been issued over just to the south of Champaign, Illinois. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because as we continue to watch that, if these can hold together, we may watch that move into our northwestern viewing area in places like Lafayette or maybe over into Clinton, Carroll County. Those areas we'll have to certainly watch. More severe thunderstorm warnings are being issued to the south from there. And that one, I do believe, has the considerable tagging with it. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in. I just want to get to the severe thunderstorm warning because that one is going to be the one that I want to really talk about because I think as this one moves across the line, we'll be able to get a little bit more information on that. So a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that we're tracking there. Let's move these just over to the side and you'll be able to see National Weather Service is putting the tornado possible wording here in the severe thunderstorm warning along the line. If we do see a little bit of that spin along the line, it's where we're watching it for the possibility of maybe an isolated spin up until they really can kind of get confirmation that, yeah, we do think that this is pretty strong rotation enough that they'll issue a tornado warning. We're talking about this cell. It's really this huge cell, this huge tornado, severe thunderstorm warning that has the tornado possible wording. Let's do a couple of things. Let's talk about where the winds are right now. Now, they've certainly come down from where they were earlier in the day where we had 50 to 55 mile per hour wind gusts. They're still in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range. The concern is that just above the surface of the earth, in the lower levels of the atmosphere, the winds are really racing. Now, during the daytime, we were able to tap into a little bit of that. The atmosphere kind of gets churning, and some of those strong winds come down to the surface. As we've lost the heating of the day, we don't tap into as much of that until the line of storms gets here. And once that happens, then we may be able to surpass some of the numbers that we had earlier in the day where they popped up to 55 mile per hour winds. That was at the airport early this afternoon, a 56-mile-per-hour wind in Bloomington. That happened also early this afternoon. And a couple of things to consider when these storms come through. The National Weather Service may issue various types of even severe thunderstorm warnings. Let's hope we don't get into a tornado warning situation, but we'll certainly watch for that as well. But the base severe, they're probably going to be issuing for wind tonight, not necessarily for hail. We haven't seen a lot of hail with these storms that have been pushing through parts of Illinois. 58 miles per hour, that's the threshold for a severe thunderstorm warning. It is possible that they could put a considerable tagging in some of the wording, which means that it's 70-mile-per-hour winds that the National Weather Service is looking at on radar, and we'll be able to track those along this evening. Again, the hail size could also be an indicator here too, but we don't think hail is going to be the issuance factor for the National Weather Service. When you go a step above that, destructive severe thunderstorm warnings, the National Weather Service is there considering that we could have 80-plus mile-per-hour winds. This is like a Category 1 hurricane or stronger. The reason we point this out is because when you have tornado warnings and you're in that tornado warning, your phone will go off. When you have a destructive severe thunderstorm warning, it can also trigger your phone to go off. We think that that could be something we have to deal with this evening as this line of storms rolls through. Something to consider for tonight. Also watching some of our cameras as we take a look at Carmel right now. You can see the sky is certainly darkening, more clouds thickening up as the afternoon at the evening has gone on. A little ladybug on the camera there at Bloomington, but overall not too bad out there in Bloomington. I mentioned this a bit earlier, and I'll mention it one more time. If this were happening in May or in June, there'd be a lot more leaves on the trees, and the winds can really pick the trees up and push them over a lot more easily, acting as a little bit of a sail. The fact that the trees do not have leaves on them just yet may be a little bit of help in our favor, not by much, but a little bit in our favor. And of course, some of the traffic cameras will keep an eye on these all throughout the evening. Earlier with the strong winds, we had some debris moving across the road. I believe we had a hay bale or a bin that moved across one of the roads in Shelby County, caused some problems there on some of the roads because of those strong winds. As the line gets a little bit closer, we think we may have more of that to deal with for tonight. We'll certainly watch these cameras as that line gets a little bit closer. As far as what to expect, I think we're going to be dealing with this line rolling through likely within the next maybe hour or so, crossing the line. You can see there is a little bit of a bump out in that line. That's where we have those really strong winds and then a little kink on the north side. That's where we expect we'll have a little bit of rotation within that line. That's why the National Weather Service is issuing tornado warnings. The good news is, of all the tornado warnings that we're tracking here, and I can just put on the watches and warnings so you can see all those, I see none that are observed at this time. That comes with a little bit of a caveat that it's also getting dark. So we're starting to see the sun go down. These aren't going to be as observable as they would be if this were occurring several hours ago and we had plenty of daylight left. But so far, none of these are confirmed tornadoes on the ground. Look at that line of severe thunderstorm warnings from Texas through Louisiana, right along the Mississippi River right now with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tornado warnings. Currently, actually, there were 2 more underneath, 10 tornado warnings along that line, right along the Mississippi River Valley. It's about to cross into Indiana. Keep it tuned right here. As soon as those warnings trigger across the state line, we will jump back in here for coverage, and then we've got you covered from the West Indiana line all the way over to the Ohio line. We will be watching that. We will stay with you until the storms completely cross, and then you have to deal with, unfortunately, some colder conditions. Once the system moves out of here, we're talking about temperatures dropping from the 70s today, likely down into the 20s. A couple of things to keep in mind. The tornado probability of concern is mainly to our south and west, but there's enough of a probability here across Indiana that it kind of makes us concerned about the possibility of tornadoes, and we are seeing that. Damaging wind is certainly going to be the biggest concern, and there is that threat, especially the farther south and west you go, but this includes Indianapolis. Hail threat is minimal. It's not zero, but it's minimal as this line of storms moves through. Behind it, there's even some snow squalls that have been moving through. Most of this is now triggering on the tornado warnings, but snow squall warnings had popped up a little bit earlier across parts of Iowa and Missouri as the line got a little bit closer. This is the area we're going to continue tracking. Again, there's some showers that are now over the state line. We're likely going to see some rain even before the storms get here. Probably going to see severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings. They have now changed up the warnings just a little bit. Let's see if we can go through some of those. We do have a high wind warning that's still in place until 10 p.m., includes the metro and points to the east all the way down to Bloomington. Outside of that, to the west, I believe we still have a wind advisory that's in place. That's going to go until 8 a.m. That's now been extended. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning that's to our north. This includes some of our northern counties, White, Cass, Miami. That's going to be in place until 2 a.m. for the possibility of strong storms there. What I'm still waiting on is to see how far to the east they extend that tornado watch box. We are looking at I-70 here. One of our cameras, this is right at the Indiana state line. You can see that, you can tell that because it says 0.9 eastbound. That means it is just approximately 1 mile over the state line, very close to Terre Haute here on 70. You can see there is some rain, there is some ponding on the roadways here a little bit. This is not even the line that's moved through just yet. We are anticipating that line to continue pushing on by. As far as what to expect, again, winds are going to be a concern. We'll be watching some of the wind gusts. You can see they've picked up as the severe thunderstorm warning is approaching Champaign right now. 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts currently reported. Our winds here locally have calmed down, but it's nothing like those winds that were here earlier in the day. Meteorologist Sean Ash and myself will be here throughout the rest of the evening. We're going to cut away from this now, but as soon as those warnings are triggered across the state line, we will jump right back on here on WTHR+, and if necessary for a tornado warning on WTHR. Stay safe. Now's a good time to charge your phone. Be ready in case we do lose power, as we are expecting this strong line to cross the state overnight tonight.